Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today we are talking about the Indiana Pacers and their chances in the Eastern Conference. They are currently up 1-0 over the Milwaukee Bucks in their first playoff series. Before we get too ahead of ourselves here, I'm also joined by, I probably should have said that, I'm joined by Alex Golden, who is the host of the Setting the Pace podcast, and he also has a Substack called Blue and Golden, and he covers the Indiana Pacers. He's also a tremendous follow on Twitter. Basically, every stat you want to know about the Pacers, every video interview, Alex is posting that online. So, Alex, before we get too ahead of ourselves and looking at the Pacers and how they compare to the rest of the Eastern Conference, Damian Lillard has just been ruled questionable for Game 2. Is there a belief that he's actually going to be playing tomorrow night against the Pacers? And how does that change the Pacers' approach in this series?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, obviously Dame does change the thing dynamically because of what he can do offensively, and it gives the Bucks another on-ball score. If you take away Dame Lillard, it's pretty much Giannis is the only self-creator for Milwaukee, unless you want to give Brook Lopez some touches in the post or Kevin Porter Jr. You want him to come out of nowhere, who's never played a playoff game, and kind of bring in some on-ball creation. Like, he can do it, but I just think at a high level when you're trying to win in the playoffs, that's what Damian Lillard brings. But at the same time, we don't know if he's actually coming back or not because how good of game shape is he actually in? I think that's the biggest question here. Great that he's healthy, great that he's doing well, great that he was spirited and into the game, even though he was on the bench in game one, getting involved, getting a technical foul. So I just think that Damian Lillard is like a very good player, obviously, is probably in the later stages of his career for sure, but if he can come back healthy and he can come back in pretty good game shape, I think he can be helpful. But if he's not fully healthy and they try to rush him back a little bit, I think he could be kind of rusty for game 2 if they do bring him back. And I think offensively, it'll tell you a lot if you see how good his shot looks. If his shot is short a lot, you'll see how he's a little bit more winded. Have to see what kind of minutes restrictions they put him on, and then defensively how they utilize him defensively. Because if they're going to play a lot of zone, you could see Dame trying to be hit in the zone. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, we've never seen Dame and Giannis together in the playoffs. I don't know. It's going to happen at some point this series, it seems like. But at what level we see them at is still yet to be determined.
Well, yeah, too, the out of shape thing, it's just you guys are just going to be, the Pacers are just going to be attacking him relentlessly on the defensive end, making him work just as much as he can on both ends, because this is the injury that he's had. I don't know too much about it, but it's not necessarily an injury where it's like an upper body injury where you're just like always on the bike and trying to be in shape that way. Like, this is a injury where you're not like just being active, and then now all of a sudden you're going to be asked to being played like high 30s, maybe even low 40s playoff minutes. I feel like they need him to be productive, the Bucks, if they want to have a chance in this series. I think if he's unproductive, like you guys could probably win the series in 5 games.
I mean, I'll say this about Dame, and this is not really trying to like hate on the guy, but I think if you look at the Bucks roster from top to bottom, he's probably their worst defender when healthy. So if he's not 100% healthy, he's just going to be more of a liability defensively. So I know they can mask some of those holes right there because they have Giannis, they have guys like Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis that are solid defenders, right? But at some point, like, this is a Bucks team that the biggest concern I have with the Bucks making this more of a game is just the fact that their man-to-man defense has been very up and down, specifically in this matchup with Indiana. And so Indiana, they know how to attack the Bucks' weaknesses, and they've done that, going back to last season. And while the Bucks won the season series 3-1, there was some weird games, a lot of second night of back-to-backs. No, not everybody's rosters were the same as they are right now in the playoffs. So I just think that, Giannis is great. Like, everybody knows that Giannis is by far the best player, but like the version of Dame that the Bucks get, I think, is really going to be telling. But at the end of the day, if he's out there and he's not fully 100% and the Pacers attack him, I don't know how much he's going to really impact what Milwaukee does compared to what they did in game 1. Obviously, just he can be a little bit of a decoy like he was last year when his calf was bothering him and they let Chris Middleton kind of cook, but they're just missing another on-ball creator, and that's why Dame's so important, but not so important that you rush him back too early, because if he's not there offensively 100%, you're not getting the version of Dame Lillard that you're probably thinking you should be getting if you're a Bucks fan.
Yeah, I think a strength too of the Pacers in this series and just in any sort of matchup that they're in is that there's just they're not a team that's like going to have they're not reliant on their superstars to be dropping 40 points. There's 7 8 guys in this Pacers rotation that can get you double digit points, whether you want to go to Halliburton, Siakam, Miles Turner, Nemhard can light it up. Matherin's definitely not afraid to shoot at all, and just the versatility that this roster has. You can really see it in game one. There's just a lot of smooth ball movement that you guys had. I was going through a lot of the box scores from last year's playoffs that you guys had and just going through each series. And I think that kind of stood out to me in the games that Dame played last year and even going to the Knicks series with Brunson. There was a few games there where Dame really balled out and Brunson really balled out. Is that kind of a weakness that the Pacers still have, where they aren't necessarily the best equipped to be guarding smaller, athletic, point guards, or is that maybe something that they've improved on over the course of the season?
Well, they've definitely improved from last year to this year defensively. I think they were like top 11 since the calendar year. So like if you can be a top 11 defense, like yeah, you still want to be top 10. I know that's not,
Yeah.
everybody wants to be top 10, but like from the Pacers going from 23rd, 24th to like 18th once they made the Siakam trade and got rid of Buddy Hield, and then going from 18th to 11th over this last, 3 or 4 months when everyone's been healthy for the most part. I think it is kind of telling of like how much they've improved defensively. And look, I mean, great players are going to score. I think that's just the bottom line. I mean, Jalen Brunson was a bona fide killer. Like he was doing that to everybody. It didn't matter what defense you threw on him. I know they did a better job against Brunson when Neesmith was guarding him versus Nemhard because of the size and the way that Brunson likes to play so physical. But like Dame Lillard's got a quick shot. Dame Lillard's good at drawing fouls. If you get your hand in the cookie jar, he's going to rise up and try to shoot over you, get you called for a foul, and that's 3 free throws. Like he's got that. I don't think his burst is as quick as it once was, but he's a great scorer. And so anytime you see a great scorer put up big stats in a series, I wouldn't say it's problematic. I just say, look, they're doing this to everybody. And, there's not an Amin Thompson on everybody's team, right? Like Amin Thompson is like one of these freak athletes that can guard, like 1 through 4 and just do some crazy special stuff. But Nemhard does pretty good at doing that kind of stuff. And I feel like Nemhard has had pretty good success against Dame, but I think it's a different type of player than Brunson. So, you're comparing two different kind of players here. But when you got elite players that score the basketball, like that's what they have to do to make their team the best version of themselves. You kind of just have to live with them doing what they're doing and try to eliminate as much as you can, but you're not gonna be able to do it 24/7.
Well, even the Thompson brothers, I think we saw in game one, I mean, they are kind of noted as very athletic, skilled defenders, but they even got kind of lit up by Brunson and Steph Curry in their respective game one. So, I mean,
Yeah, you're
it's kind of,
talking about two of the top 5, 6 point guards in the league.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's
So
just kind of the NBA. Like the best
yeah,
players are just going to get theirs for the very most part. But one of the better point guards in the NBA plays on the Indiana Pacers. His name is Tyrese Halliburton. I was looking up the stat today, and maybe correct me if the stat's incorrect, but the Pacers are 19-2 every time he scores 20 points a game or more this season. I don't know if that's the correct stat, but
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it might be 21-2, but don't quote me on that. It might have changed since then, but he's had some really good. Maybe it's been 21 games, which is why I'm thinking 21, 19-2 to be 21. So he's been very good when he's scoring.
yeah, yeah. How important is it for him? Because he's obviously a guy that wants to be efficient. He wants to be pass first. He wants to get his teammates involved. But how is important of an emphasis do like Rick Carlisle and the staff try to put on Tyrese Halliburton to be like, hey man, look for your shot too?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of funny that you say that because if you look at this game one, shot the ball pretty poorly, 0 of 7 from 3, 3 of 13 from the field. What do you have? 11 points. He finished 11 or 12. I can't remember if it was 11 or 12, but regardless, like he didn't have a great output, but he was 12 assists, a plus 27. And I think when you look at that, and I don't even know if he had a turnover, maybe one, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I just know that when Tyrese Halliburton has a poor shooting night and the Pacers still win by 19, that just kind of shows you how deep this team is. And so Halliburton and Doc Rivers even said at post game, he's a true point guard. He's comfortable passing the ball and not being a scorer. Now, I think we've all seen this, that he needs to step up and be a scorer at times, specifically when the offense kind of bogs down. But Halliburton is just one of these players that we know that he can kind of turn it on. But if you go back to game one, he really wasn't shooting the ball much. And then there in the second quarter, he took 3 straight shots in a row. He missed the first 2, finally got to the basket on the third one, which is just not something you usually see from Tyrese Halliburton, is come down and just shoot every single time he comes down the floor, especially if they're not make after make after make. Because if he's feeling it offensively, yeah, he'll shoot more. He misses 2 in a row. I've not really recalled like another time where he shot a third shot after missing 2 in like, back to back to back possessions. And then I think on the next possession after that, he had a pull-up jumper in the second quarter. So I think that they know that they have to get him involved offensively as a scorer, because once he adds into like, okay, he's feeling it tonight offensively as a scorer, they have to guard him differently, which makes his passing more of a weapon if they have to overplay to the scoring. But, there's going to be a game in this series where Tyrese Halliburton drops 25, 30 points, and it's just like, okay, Tyrese is hot right now. I definitely believe that. But in this game, he didn't need to be. And I think that, like you said, because of their depth and because of their well-balanced scoring attack, as much as it is important to get Tyrese going, the Pacers are one of those weird teams where you don't really have to do that. So it's not like he has to be a Jalen Brunson or a Dame Lillard where he kind of has to carry such a heavy offensive load scoring-wise. He can kind of score and pick his spots, but if he's getting in double-digit assists and other guys are scoring and making their three-point shots that kind of cater to what the Pacers want to do offensively, then I think that's the way they'd like to play versus Tyrese Halliburton dropping 30 points in a game and kind of leading them. That's not when they're at their best.
How scary is it as a fan rooting against Giannis in a playoff series? How scary is that guy? Because he could just like physically dominate the game offensively and defensively. And it feels like just any game he's just capable of getting like a 45 and 20. So like just watching that, rooting for the Pacers, like how scary is that?
I mean, yeah, I think that the reason why Pacer fans shouldn't get overconfident yet is because of that man right there you're talking about. Like, this guy dropped a career high, like 60-something points, 63 points or whatever it was against the Pacers last year in ball gates. So it's like, when Oscar Tshiebwe got his first points in the NBA, he wanted a game ball for him. Giannis thought the Pacers took the game ball. Everybody remembers all of that. But, like, this is a guy.
I forgot about that.
I mean, this is a guy that can do some great things, obviously. I think he's a top 3 player in the league, does it offensively and defensively, can play small ball 5, can play, and I guess small ball is a little bit of an understatement, but he can play the 5, he can play the 4. At times you can have Giannis be your point guard and kind of run and initiate things like special player, right? Like, you look at Nikola Jokic, like, obviously a great offensive player. And I would say that Jokic on offense is like so like hard to like replicate. And I know there's been some heliocentric stuff here with Giannis as of late, kind of having to carry that load. But Giannis is just not the level of offensive player as a Nikola Jokic because of his shot making and passing ability. He's gotten better as a passer, but Jokic is just above and beyond him in that category. But defensively, Giannis has Jokic beat by a mile because Giannis can defend, he can block shots and things like that. But I just think it's terrifying because you just never know. And he's been hitting that mid-range jumper this year a little bit more at ease. Hasn't really shot the 3 much, but he's been still shooting around 60% from the field against the Pacers. I think it's around 64% this season against the Pacers, whereas he shot 61% in the regular season. So he's been better against Indiana, and he's been a problem for the Pacers for years. So this is why you go out and get Pascal Siakam. This is why you utilize guys like Jarris Walker, Aaron Nesmith, Miles Turner, Thomas Bryant, just to give him different looks. Don't always play single coverage. Throw some zone in there at time. Throw some, double teams, triple teams, whatever you got to do to get the ball out of his hands and make him work. Because when you show him the same look, he's going to figure things out. So constantly changing it up is going to be huge. But, I mean, this is a guy that can easily take over a game. He's an MVP of the league, defensive player of the year, former defensive player of the year, and a former finals MVP. This is a dude that's got some accolades. So he's in his prime right now, and he's going to be problematic the rest of this series, whether it's 4, 5, 6, or 7 games that we see in between, the next couple weeks.
Well, he's also one of those guys too that with how physical he plays, it's kind of like that LeBron Shaq problem where a lot of times the referees just don't know how to like call whether to call offensive fouls on him, whether to call defensive fouls on the other team. And like, it's something that's really just like dramatic when you see it in person, just how physical he plays.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because he does throw that forearm out quite a bit to create some space. And it's like, are they going to call this every time, or are they just going to let it ride? And I think
Like put a
if they're going
hole
to
in
let it
somebody's
ride,
chest.
right? If they're going to let it ride a little bit more than they're going to call it, I think you just kind of have to embrace for a more physical game on both ends of the floor. If you're going to allow Giannis to be physical, you have to allow the Pacers to be physical. And I felt like that was kind of what we saw in game one. I didn't feel like there was a lot of egregious calls. I felt like the Pacers were fouling quite a bit. And Giannis went, what, 8 of 15 from the free throw line. So, not a great percentage. I think you live with that because whenever a guy is at the free throw line shooting a less percentage than what he's shooting from the field, that's where you live with that result, right? I mean, 8 of 15 is not a great free throw shooting night for a guy like Giannis. So
Do you think the fans got in his head a little bit with like the chanting and the counting, I guess?
yeah, I mean, there was definitely some times where he was kind of matching up when he was going to shoot based on when they were counting. But this happens. This has happened for a few years now. So I don't know how much he's really tuned it out or how much it messes with him or not. But Gainbridge Fieldhouse is a different animal. I mean, these fans are pretty pretty lit. So they're pretty loud. They're pretty excited. So I wouldn't be surprised if it had a little bit of a factor into it. But I just can't imagine as a former basketball player spending the entire 10 seconds at the free throw line. Like, I would have an anxiety attack knowing it takes me that long just to get my shot off. Like, they could call a lane violation on him almost every time because he doesn't get the shot off before 10 seconds up. It's closer to 11 almost every single time. But are the officials really counting? They don't have to if the fans are doing it for them. So I'm just saying it's just one of those things where Giannis is he's a problem, man. And whether he's at the free throw line, whether he's driving to the basket, whether he's hitting jumpers or finding open 3-point shooters, like, this is a guy that can turn a series on his head. And you brought up last year's playoff series. Like, the Pacers got smoked in game one against Milwaukee on the road, but they won game two and then won 4 of the next 5. So if anybody's looking at this series and thinking the series is over because, the Pacers won game one pretty handily, I'd say, calm down a little bit, pump the brakes. It's still a long series and a lot of basketball left to be played.
Oh, come on, man. We got to overreact. We got to overreact to game
Nah,
one. That's what we do.
game one is the
I've
weirdest
gotten
game of any series, I feel like.
Oh, we did a video about the Rockets and the Warriors last week. I've gotten like 10 or 12 comments on that YouTube video about how the Warriors are going to sweep the Rockets now. So that's just what we do as basketball fans. We overreact to game one.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to also talk about here too, kind of how the Pacers would match up. Hypothetically, again, still need to get past the Bucks. We all know that. Take it one game at a time. But I'm of the opinion that I think if we're just going by like the seeds, and if we do have if it's all chalk and we have Cavs, Pacers, we got Celtics, Knicks. I think you guys actually have a better shot of upsetting the Cavs than the Knicks would of the Celtics. Do you agree with me on that, or am I maybe just blowing too much smoke up the Pacers' butt right now?
No, I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, I've been advocating on our podcast that the Pacers stay in 4, don't jump up to 3, because I don't think you want to see Boston in round 2 if you can avoid them. And this is no knock on Cleveland. They had a great season, have had some really terrific growth from their group. But a lot of these guys that are in the rotation are unproven playoff players. And Donovan Mitchell, obviously, a bona fide playoff killer. We've seen him do that with Utah and with Cleveland at times last year. Darius Garland, I think he had a pretty down year last year. Jared Allen has had a handful of moments here and there. DeAndre Hunter really hasn't had experience. Evan Mobley hasn't really had like great playoff experience. So I just think that they seem a little bit more vulnerable than the Celtics do. Obviously, winning a championship, knowing what it takes to win a title. Like, anytime you can, and they got a lot of guys in their prime. Like, anytime you can avoid that, I think the Pacers could potentially match up pretty well with how the Cavs match up. I think Ty Jerome off the bench is, by far the best player off the bench in terms of like who you're looking at, because this is a guy like who wins 6th man of the year. But he talks some mad trash. He backs it up though. So I think that the Pacers could hang with the Cavs. I'd be a little hesitant to publicly say that I think the Pacers would get by them, but it wouldn't shock me if Indiana won that in 6 or 7. I think Indiana could potentially have a chance at making it back to the Eastern Conference Finals if everything kind of falls their way.
I think the key in that series, in my opinion, would be the Mobley Siakam matchup, because that's been really the big difference with Cleveland this year. Is just Mobley's just taken a huge step forward, but again, he still is in like year 3, maybe year 3, 4.
Yeah.
Like, he's still an incredibly young raw basketball player. And I mean, if Siakam can kind of light him up, and then also I think too, how could you, if you're the Pacers, can you make Cleveland try and lean more into playing more small, whether that's having Allen at the 5, Mobley at the 5? I kind of like that matchup if it's small ball versus small ball kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I think that Jared Allen and Evan Mobley have played really well together defensively, and that's why there's a good chance that Evan Mobley does win Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, Pascal Siakam, he just knows how to take advantage, I guess you could say, of the opportunities that the other team gives him. Right, like he's just a very skillful player. That's why they call him P skills. He just
Spicy
works
P.
his spicy P. He does whatever he needs to do to get into to figure things out. And like even against Giannis, like being able to kind of contort his body to get up and under him and get a layup in a tough contested spot. Like he's just a very good player. And I'm not saying that, he's better than Evan Mobley or anything like that. I just think that if you look at that matchup, I mean, I think it might almost be kind of a wash to a certain degree, just because I think both players are going to do their thing. I think to me, if I were to like kind of predict this series a little bit, or just like kind of like preview it, which feels like we're getting way too far ahead of ourselves here, but I think the guard play would be the most interesting thing to me. Garland and Mitchell, can Neesmith and Nembhard really do a good enough job to defend them? And where do you hide Halliburton at? I mean, Halliburton's going to have to guard the 3, whether it's Isaac Okoro or Max Strus or whoever, and doing that, DeAndre Hunter, I mean, like that's just not that's just gonna be harder for Tyrese than to like try to bury him on somebody that's on Milwaukee. So I just think obviously deeper team, more depth, more talent overall with the Cavs. It'll be tough, but I just think if Garland and Mitchell can get going and like getting Nembhard and Neesmith in foul trouble or whatever, like who is going to guard at that position at the guard spot behind you? I mean, that's where you're pulling for Ben Shepherd and TJ McConnell to kind of step up defensively, and I don't see that being the case specifically for McConnell, knowing just how good those guards can be.
All right, we won't keep going any farther ahead and do hypothetical series. I won't put you through that. Indiana, obviously, a smaller market, not on national TV as much as me or you would probably want. But you just brought up the 6th Man of the Year award there with Ty Jerome. Or excuse me, are there any Indiana players, any Pacers out there that you think might be getting kind of snubbed in a lot of these awards races right now? Whether you think Halliburton should be on an All-NBA team at all, maybe you think he could maybe get up to second team, Siakam on an All-NBA team, even Mathurin maybe getting some noise for 6th Man of the Years, or any thing there where you think maybe some of these Pacers players are just being a little bit underappreciated from a national perspective?
I don't think I can actually say I think the Pacers really have any players that stand out to me in terms of should be on any of these like 3 finalist ballots, right? I think that that's pretty obvious. Like Pacers have had an up and down year, and I feel like with Mathurin having to start for such a long time, like he doesn't really put himself into that 6-man conversation, just because with Neesmith being out for a good portion of the season, he started quite a few games, and so I don't feel like he's getting snubbed. I would say that Halliburton and Siakam both have fair cases to make All NBA. I would probably put them more on 3rd team All NBA than 2nd team, just because statistically, like there's a lot of really good players ahead of them in terms of numbers and things like that. I mean, a lot of people have been saying, Halliburton, his late resurgence, since basically like middle of December to now has been great. So he should make All NBA, but like some of that stuff early on was just awful from him. And he's had some, up and down games as well. And Siakam has been a little bit more consistent. So I don't really have a preference on who makes it. I just think one of them could and should probably potentially make 3rd team All NBA. But if they don't, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I think that it's fair just because they were kind of like not statistically as strong as some of these other players. And I totally understand that, because like who's the leading scorer for the Pacers? Siakam. Is that what the Pacers leading scorer is? And what is the average? Like 20 points a game?
Yeah, like 21, I think.
Yeah. I mean, 21's cool, but like 21 in today's NBA, it's not as much as it used to be, right? So I just think that the Pacers are a balanced team. So I don't think that really any individual award is like popping out for anybody outside of maybe an All NBA team. I don't think Nembhard's capable or able to be. I don't think he's eligible. That's what I'm thinking of. Eligible for All Defense. So I think he's out of the running for that. But I think if he were in the running for All Defense, that he would have a strong case for that as well.
Does the Supermax kick in with Halliburton if he makes All NBA?
I think it already kicks in. I think he got it last year. So
he did? I thought he missed the games.
No,
Okay.
he made sure that he played enough games last year, so he got it last year. I think he was third team All NBA last year.
Well, yeah, if he made it last year, I think he should definitely make it this year. Alex, that's we've been talking for about 25 minutes. I think that's going to do it for this here day. Do you want to tell us where we can find all of your work, and then we'll head out of here?
Yeah, if you guys are looking for some, deep dives on Pacers stuff and you're a Pacer fan, thanks so much for coming to this podcast and checking it out. But if you're not already listening to me on the regular, you can find me at Alex Golden NBA on Twitter. And I'm also on Blue Sky at Alex Golden NBA. I'm not on there as often, but if you guys want to check that out, that'd be great. And our podcast is Setting the Pace, a Pacers podcast. If you want to type that in, I'm sure it'll be right there in your feed, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, or even if you just go to Google and type in Setting the Pace Pacers podcast, it'll be right there for you. So we post a lot. We do about 6 to 7 episodes a week during the playoffs, just trying to keep you guys up to date.
Oh my
We are
gosh.
basically 5 episode a week. We're kind of a daily podcast. So lots of exciting stuff going on. Always have game recaps, always have different guests on. So if you're a Pacer fan, I would definitely recommend our show. It's just it's a good listen, good hang, and I think that you'll enjoy the vibes from the podcast.
I just I mentioned at the beginning too. I just remember this off the top of my head. That you're like a great follow on Twitter. Part of the reason I remember last year during the Bucks Pacers, and like I think it was Game 6 when Patrick Beverley threw the ball at the fan. I think you were the person that like posted the video of Patrick Beverley like trying to defend that. Is that like,
Yeah.
it's got
Well,
like there's so much stuff going on with this Bucks Pacers thing.
yeah. Well,
It
honestly,
goes so
like
deep.
I just got home from doing media coverage. I go on YouTube to see what like the Bucks post game stuff was about. The Pacers just won the series, and Pat Beverley is telling an ESPN reporter that she is not allowed to ask him questions because she doesn't subscribe to his podcast. So he kind of tells her to like leave basically and just embarrasses an ESPN reporter. And then I don't even know if he even addressed the ball thing with throwing it at the fan or anything like that. But I know that really
Or was
took
that?
off.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Brian Windhorst, Woj, all these ESPN people at the time were retweeting my tweet, quote
Yeah.
tweeting it. And I was like, man, this is blowing up. I mean, I had different people within the Pacers organization texting me like, where'd you get this video? Were you in the locker room? I'm like, I don't have locker room access. My media credential doesn't go that far. I'm not a tier 1 media member just because I just do a podcast. I'm not like a writer for any like national site or anything like that. I said, it's on their YouTube page. It's on the Bucks YouTube page. The Bucks actually posted this. The Bucks have control of what they share. So I don't know if the Bucks were trying to get Patrick Beverley off their team, but they just shared this openly, and I was a little bit surprised by that. But I was like, I got to clip this and share it. I mean, if he says this about this, like I mean, he's been doing it all season long. I guess he'd kicked other people out in media scrums in Milwaukee last year, but when you kick out an ESPN reporter that's been doing that job for a long time just because she doesn't subscribe to your podcast, it seemed a little bit chauvinistic.
That's why he wasn't on a team this year.
Yeah, I know. He's got his podcast still, though. Subscribe.
That actually gets a lot of views, crazily enough.
Yeah, I'm not one of them.
I'm not either. All right, man. Thank you very much for stopping by. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Go check out all of Alex's stuff. And again, 5 days a week, 5, 6, 7 days a week, posting Pacers content. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.